The original vision for the foundation was that we had, well, first of all, it goes back to when I was very young, and an appreciation for the beauty of the natural world, which is deeply ingrained into my soul from many perspectives, especially my training in philosophy and environmental philosophy. But then we actually did a project with the International Ecotourism Society in Costa Rica. We were invited by this company in Connecticut to participate in a series of meetings designed to determine what constitutes an eco-lodge. Because everybody in Costa Rica at this time in the 1980s and early 1990s was advertising themselves as an eco-lodge, but nobody knew what an eco-lodge was. So we went down, and in the process of formulating guidelines that were later published, and that led us to a rainforest called the Bosque Lluvioso Rio Costa Rica, near Guapiles in the central part of the country. And it turned out that this forest was for sale, and there was a rumor circulating that the owner was thinking of deforesting it, selling the lumber off, because it wasn't working out very well from a conservation perspective. We took a walk through that forest, and I'll never forget the first time I set foot in it. It was just in a different world. And we were surrounded by life and beauty and wisdom, and it was obvious everywhere we looked, the incredible complexity of it. And so we, a couple of very naive, silly gringos, in this first time in this beautiful country, decided to buy this forest on a whim. And so we met with the owner and we made an offer. He accepted it, and then we bought it, and then we tried to figure out what to do with it because we had no idea what to do with it. And that led us from one thing to the next, and it finally led us to looking at ways to conserve and preserve the project indefinitely, and that led us to our relationship to the National Biodiversity Institute, Instituto Nacional de Biodiversidad. And then we gave the forest to them to train their parataxonomists. So it's a long answer to a short question. But that's what got me going in this stuff. And that's where the Pax Natura Foundation was born, in the rainforest of Costa Rica. It's evolved rather dramatically. The North American University agreement with organizations within Costa Rica that were doing conservation work there. And then it led us to the Fondo Nacional Financiamiento Forestal, Fondo FIFO, that was administering the Pagar Servicio Ambiente program in Costa Rica, the Payment for Environmental Services program. We were so taken by it that we enrolled our project in that program. And it's really a remarkable program, and it's been an inspiration to me ever since I first found out about it. And that led us to the carbon markets. It led us to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And then we validated the project, and we presented that to the Costa Rican government. And that allowed them to become a protocol for the Paris climate talks of the PSA program concept, which is a really one. We could talk about that for an hour, but we don't have time for that.
Guerreros Verdes? Oh, yes. It's an organization that environmentalist that my dear friend Elena founded, and then I joined them right after she did it. And it was exactly when the big park, the beautiful park that Randall was saying, was about to be sold to developers that wanted to convert it in a mall, in a commercial mall, in a supermarket, and only cement. And they were planning to cut all the beautiful trees. So we started the fight, and that's why we met. And then we finally won the fight. And she, Elena, got several interviews with the governor on those days. And thanks to that and so many other supporting activities, we finally won the fight. So from there, our path is been full of little and big fights. And what I realize is that human beings, we have the two extremes. And if we just allow the bad part of us, like greed, like ambitious, like selfishness, that's why the world is like it is. So through my search and for new ways of defending nature, I found this man in Pax Natura, which now I am more than involved, and I love it. And I have learned a lot from him in regarding the environmental, and so the environment. So I am in a eternal fight. Now we are fighting, as you know perfectly well, the cause of the against GMO in Mexico, corn is exactly, but in general, I mean, we like to be more natural, and we hope, or our hope is that this world and the humans open their eyes and see all the bad things that we are doing. That's why we are facing these big challenges.
Was it the Parque Papagayo?
Oh yeah, totally.
And that Parque Papagayo that she and her collaborators worked on is a spectacularly beautiful park where people were coming and giving education, environmental education courses and demonstrations in organic farming and agroecology and everything.
Oh, that's another very important part. We have been given a lot of courses to campesinos of agroecology, how they can cultivate without any chemicals, any poisons, etc. And it's been also a big success in the city, in the state. Yeah. And many other states. Yeah.
And preventing a lot of development that would have involved massive deforestation.
I was also in the council of urbanistic council in the city, and I cooperate so they respect the reserves, the natural reserves that we have in Acapulco, because you know how developers are, very ambitious and greedy. So we stopped that, and I was part of it.
How do you?
Yeah, in both sides. I mean, asking people to join us and giving a lot of information, and also, and the other way with the congressmen, and trying to make appointments with them and showing a lot of films, documentaries, and letters with information so they can know exactly what will be the consequences of not having these trees or contaminating this lake, or, you know, or educating is what basically is what we have been doing through the years, me and my group.
And marching downtown.
Oh yes, and we have been big protesters on the main avenue of the city with, you know, signs and protesting very strongly. I was in the press conference of the book of of transgenic, regarding transgenic, and it was translated in Spanish. And he was there, obviously, and I was there waiting for him. I didn't tell him, but it was that event in the press conference that we met in Mexico City, and then I knew that he was the leader and co-founder of Pax Natura Foundation, and then we start with the same cause. I also was member of the campaign, the national campaign that with Sin Maíz no hay país, without corn we have no country in Mexico. And then we continue our relation, and then we ended up together, and I'm very happy. I think I am in a very precious moment of my life.
Paz con naturaleza in español. Well, there's Pax Romana in the Roman Empire among peoples, peace among peoples. But there's never been a sort of declaration that since we've been destroying nature and at war with nature for so long, killing our good air quality here along the Wasatch and destroying biodiversity and deforestation and all kinds of other things going on with it. But nobody's ever declared peace with nature. Why are we killing ourselves? Why are we at war with our natural environment? It's insane. The insanity of it is beyond my comprehension. And so telling people peace with nature involves many different things. How you do things, what are the habits you develop. People that, like in Acapulco, that are doing good things for the environment. We all have that responsibility. And I think that's what Pax Natura is all about, peace with the natural world. Well, their eyes are getting opened, because how can you not? This is what I don't understand. Given everything we notice every year, temperatures getting hotter, hotter, hotter.
Well, it's more than obvious that we are having a big, big problem. And here we are facing a big, big challenge. And I think everything goes to education, because it is shocking the ignorance that people have. So in my group, can I say that, Brenda? Yeah. And in my group, before I joined to Pax Natura, I am still with the association that I was telling you, that it calls Guerreros Verdes. Guerrero is the name of my state, and Guerreros Verdes, it means green warriors. You know, it's like playing. And my dear friend that I was talking to, Elena, she is the leader of the group, and she also insisted that information, education to the people is the base of everything. And it's exactly what we are trying to do. Open eyes, as Randall is saying. We have a big threat on human race. And if we don't put priority on that, well, nothing is gonna matter. Nothing is going to matter.
Under the Kyoto Protocol, under land use change, and forestry, there were only two types of carbon credits, or they were called something else than that, but essentially they were carbon credits that were allowed, and that was from reforestation credits and credits that would also basically, if you were to go in and clear a forest and then plant new trees, you could get carbon finance for planting the new trees, because you're creating a carbon sink in there, and you're pulling CO2 out of the atmosphere and putting it back into the soils and into the forests. But the Kyoto Protocol left out a critical component, and that critical component was that avoided deforestation. So there's deforestation where you replant, Or if you've got a degraded forest and you're going to improve it, you can also get credit for that under the Kyoto Protocol. But there was no provision made to avoid deforestation in the first place. Why cut these forests and then replant them? Just keep them and keep that carbon stock right where it's at. Plus, the biodiversity in a mature forest is millions of years of evolution. All our pharmaceuticals and so much wildlife comes in a mature tropical forest, especially. Virtually tropical forest contains all of the genetic information for the entire planet. And so there was no provision made to stop deforestation. So this little country in Central America called Costa Rica, they started this program after massive deforestation in the early 20th century. They started a series of forestry reforms that culminated in the PSA program, where they decided that they would start taxing the fossil fuel energy industry and then take that money and distribute it to landowners that still had pockets of forest, and then pay them to not cut their trees. You had to go through, get a forest engineer, get your property enrolled, and then you would get paid like $80 per hectare per year to keep your forest intact. The program had enormous positive leakage. So other finca owners, other farm owners, forest owners would get into the program. And it was wildly successful, and it added 34% of the landmass to forest cover in about 20 years. So Costa Ricans, the genius of the Costa Ricans was that they formulated this avoided deforestation. Stop cutting the trees. Now, the old method of the Nature Conservancy and Conservation International and everything was to go into these critical habitat areas and buy up the land, buy the forest, and then what do you do with it? You take it out of productive use for the people who live there. So it's like building a wall around it so that nobody can go in. It's protected. That program has not been very successful. So the Costa Rican genius is that they reward good stewardship. It's like if you have a renter in a property. The renter doesn't take good care of the property. But if somebody owns the property, they take better care, they take more pride in it. So we are not a carbon sequestration program in Costa Rica. We are an avoided deforestation. We don't cut the trees in the first place because you can't replace the animals, the sloths, the toucans, and all the things. Now, the benefit of the Costa Ricans doing that, recognizing those 4 areas of the environmental benefits, guess what happened? Their old economy based on deforestation and then United Fruit Company planting banana trees, that went away, and what replaced it was tourism. Ecotourism started in Costa Rica. Because once you preserve those forests, you preserve the toucans. My favorite bird is I can't remember. Montezuma. Anyway, there are 800 varieties of birds in Costa Rica, and all the monos, the monkeys, and all the different species. Now everybody in the 1990s and early 21st century, everybody wanted to go to Costa Rica to see the wildlife. And so they were able to transition their economy from an unsustainable and destructive and environmentally destructive, massive carbon in the atmosphere coming from deforestation. And they were able to convert it to ecotourism. So then you get all these people building these small eco-lodges all over the country that we participated in. And then people come down and then they just watch and observe and enjoy the beauty of the place. So it was a massive economic opportunity in conservation. That was the message. Every university has a program going on in Costa Rica now to train their children about the nuance of non-destructive, minimal invasive tourism, where you don't destroy by looking at things, that you help the country maintain a very sustainable economic foundation. And so that Costa Rican model became the model at the climate talks in Paris in 2015, 2016. And so we went to the Costa Rican government and we said, look, we'll take your successful program to the carbon markets. Let's get some international funding so it's not on the backs of the Costa Rican people who buy gas, and then a portion of that purchase goes to pay landowners to not cut their trees. Why don't we go to the carbon markets and do the same thing? We'll sell avoided deforestation carbon credits that have 4 basic services that you're getting for the price of one, and we'll sell carbon credits for you. And that's what we did for years, going to Barcelona, then Frankfurt, and Barcelona, Frankfurt to China and the other parts of the world, Australia, and Brazil. And we were very successful in
It will be
helping.
very important that you mentioned that you won the prize Earthshot.
The Costa Rican PSA program won the first Earthshot Prize from the royal family in London, who gave the Costa Rican PSA program the Earthshot Prize, and we were largely responsible for broadcasting that and making that happen. And the Earthshot Prize is $1 million to Costa Rica, and said thank you for this incredible model that you have created. And it's been very successful, and we want that to be an example for the world.
More than ever, we, as business people, we have the moral obligation to support in every single cause that has to do with environment, to help ourselves to have a better habitat, a better planet, a better world. And I think our position also obligates us with the less fortunate, I mean, with the poor people that has no opportunity to be educated. And personally, I feel obligated to bring that that information, that world, to the people that have no access to good schools, or they have no consciousness. So we need to open that consciousness on them. Yeah, as a businesswoman, I can say that.
The advice I have is that everyone needs to move toward a sustainable development model. Now, that expression is deeply disliked by a lot of people in the environmental. What sustainable development is a contradiction in terms, okay? Because everything humans do, when they develop and they build, and it has an environmental cost to it. And so I think if I were starting over again, especially as an architect, so much has been done to minimize the energy consumption of homes and buildings by the use of color, by the use of daylighting, by the use of materials that are non-toxic and sustainable, that do not degrade the environment when you build them, and they're not toxic to people when they're living in them. When you buy a new car, it smells when you get in the car. And that smell is the volatile organic compounds, which are basically oil and from chemicals that are highly toxic to you and the world around you. And so when you're designing buildings now as an architect, it's now possible to create zero energy use buildings. I remember going into a man's home. He wrote the foreword to the book I wrote on green building a long time ago. Crowther was his name. And his home was a marvel. First of all, when you walked in the front door, it was dark vestibule. But then as you walked through the second door, light just flooded into you. And it was always a fresh breeze. He used I forget the name of the technology, but it's something that was causing the air to move, all circulate through the home, and it was always fresh, coming from the outside, because he used the sun to heat the thermal mass of his floor. The sun would shine through, hit the floor, heat up the floor, which is concrete, and then the floor would retain that heat for long periods, mostly all night long. And then he would bounce light in through the kitchen window, hit the floor, a reflective surface, bounce it back up under the kitchen table, and he would light the kitchen all the way through the kitchen by just thinking about where things should be placed. And he didn't use any energy for the home. And then when it snowed, he had the light reflect off a white wall that he put in by his driveway, and the light from the sun would bounce off that and melt the snow on his driveway. So it was always, and his whole house was that way. And he was a fellow with the American Institute of Architects. And so thinking, Frank Lloyd Wright was a lot in that direction too, but thinking about color. So like, for instance, in Salt Lake City, you want a dark reflective surface, especially on your south and west walls. And you want and then you want a white reflective roof on your roof. You want a white reflective surface on there to reflect light and reflect heat from the sun in the summertime. Okay, so and then in the winter, when the sun sets down, you want those dark surfaces to absorb the heat from the sun. So thermal cooling and heating of the home is very important. And for example, we did a project, last thing I did in terms of building was on South Temple, the oldest street in Salt Lake City, most prestigious. And we did everything right. We had sustainable materials, non-toxic architectural finishes. We did it based on termite nests in Africa, where we did cooling towers, where you would put the windows up here, you could control the windows and open. And so on a hot day, you would open up the windows and you wanted circulation, open up the windows on the main floor, open up the doors on the main floor, then open up the windows, and the air would come in and it was right, and it would take all the heat out of the home.
They are beautiful homes.
Disperse it.
Beautiful homes.
And then we did all xeriscape landscaping and the whole thing with it. But then we also proposed a white reflective surface on the roofs, white metal roof, because we were very conscientious about energy and energy conservation at the time. And we submitted it to the city, and the city said, I'm sorry, it's in a historic preservation district, you have to use black asphalt shingles. I said, well, black asphalt shingles will require putting more heavy-duty air conditioning systems to keep the temperature comfortable, but a white roof will reflect that. And just at that moment, National Aeronautics and Space Administration were conducting flyovers to using thermal heat measuring devices to find out where the urban heat island effect was in downtown Salt Lake City, so they could start planning on mitigating that extra heat that cities generate, like dark surfaces, like asphalt, and dark colored roofs and things like that. And we had come in with this beautiful concept with a white reflective view, so they wouldn't let us do it. And it could save 60% of your cooling costs to put on a white reflective roof in Utah. And so that's what I've done to my office. And color is a big deal, Color is a big deal. And design of the building in relationship to air movement, in relationship to the direction and the magnetic direction, all those things are crucial in designing a sustainable zero energy home. And that's all possible now. So I kind of got off the subject.
Yeah.
Sorry. But I'd be an architect because it's such a creative process now, designing a whole new world, we hope, to create, as opposed to the Pax Romana document, the Pax Natura, which we actually created that document. It's on our website. And it has everything that we hold dear, believe in, all the things that we think are extremely important. And we want people to stop thinking of nature as a commodity to consume. That day is over with. We have done so much damage to our beautiful planet through greed and, as Luisa was saying, and exploitation, deforestation, and ignoring the warning signs from our Mother Earth. It's time to declare peace with nature as a civilization and start to work for the benefit of and the promotion of life according to natural law.
And I will insist on awakening consciousness of people and continue educating and constantly, and to at the end have more new generations, more consciousness about how much damage we have provoked, and that we need to stop what we have been doing and have dramatically changes. And we are on that. I mean, to spread the word to the world, to open eyes for having priority of protecting our habitat, our home, which is this beautiful planet.
Bueno, muy bueno, mi amor. Gracias.